Hey guys, I'm Justin with CBI and Prinsu. Behind me is a gorgeous 5th gen 4Runner. What we're doing today is a roof rack install. This is our non-drill version. Let's get started. All right, so step one is we're gonna remove the factory roof rack. Pretty simple process. We gotta remove these covers on all 4 corners and it'll expose 2 bolts underneath. So to remove them, I have a just plastic trim removal tool and a microfiber rag to protect the surface of the vehicle. We just kind of get up underneath, pry it outward, and that'll expose those bolts. We'll get these guys off. So now we got our covers removed, and now it's time to remove our 12mm bolts. Let's get them out. Now we're on the floor here. I've got everything unboxed and kind of laid out how it's gonna go. Take a couple minutes and just do a quick inspection. Make sure you got everything. This is the hardware that has our spacers in it and the bolts that secure the roof rack to the vehicle. We have our front foot and hardware, our wind deflector hardware. This is our crossbar hardware, and our lifting eyes, and then some Loctite. So just make sure your kit contains all those pieces and then start getting everything loosely installed. All right, so now we're gonna start assembling our crossbars. We're using these Torx bolts that we've prepped with the washer and Loctite. They're a T30 Torx bit. I'm using a small impact. It's turned down to its lowest setting. If you're gonna use an impact, make sure you turn it down so you don't risk stripping out any of the bolts. And we need to install them on the small slots here going down. I'm gonna leave the crossbars off where we have a mounting foot so that it doesn't interfere when we're locking it down to the vehicle. You wanna do them by hand first, get them started, and then use your impact or socket to run them in the rest of the way. Don't over tighten. We'll go ahead and get these going. All right, now we're gonna talk about the front mounting feet. A couple things we need to do there. We need to apply the double-sided tape to the bottom of each one, and then it's gonna install on these long elongated holes in the front and go on the inside, and make sure your foot is facing in. The hardware for that's in its own baggie. It's a T30 Torx bit, just like our crossbars, but it has a nylon locking nut that'll go on the inside. And this is a 7/16 size wrench you'll use for that. We're gonna install them loosely right now, and then once we get them in place on the vehicle, then we'll cut the weather stripping and then tighten it down. Okay, moving on, now we're gonna talk about assembling the wind deflector. So we have the silver crossbar, that's indicated to go with the wind deflector, and we have our bag of hardware that contains the hardware for this. Inside this bag will be some Phillips head screws. You can go ahead and get those prepped by installing the washer on them and some Loctite. And then these T-nuts, we can insert those into the crossbar. Make sure you put the threaded side facing up. Once you get all these slid in, then you can get your noise reducing trim applied and start getting this bolted together. Now we're all prepped with our wind deflector. We're gonna go ahead and get it installed. It installs the exact same way as the crossbars using the T30 Torx. Start them by hand, go low speed on the impact, or use a ratchet. Let's go ahead and get it in. All right, so wind deflector's on, crossbars are on, we're ready to get the rack up here. I went ahead and staged our spacers in the mounting locations on all 4 corners, and the bolts I applied a little Loctite on those, so those are ready to go. We have our black RTV silicone up here, and what we're gonna do is kind of fill these holes in and mush the spacer down on top of it, and we'll start all the bolts by hand once the rack's up here. But I'll go ahead and grab some help. It's definitely a 2-guy job just to control it and not damage the vehicle. We'll go ahead and throw it up. Okay, so roof rack's up. We got everything started hand tight. Our silicone is in. We're gonna take a couple minutes to talk about the front mounting feet. So we have them sitting on the weather stripping. We're gonna mark it with a Sharpie, kind of slide the foot out of the way, lift the weather stripping up and cut it, peel back our adhesive, and go ahead and lock this down on both sides. So we'll go ahead and get this marked and start cutting our weather stripping. All right, mounting feet are secured. Now we're gonna start tightening down our 4 mounting positions around the corners. Alignment is good. We got everything squared up the way we want it. Do not over tighten these. Don't put an impact. Use a ratchet and tighten them by hand, and we'll start going around and getting that done. All right, so we just wrapped up our 5th gen Prinsu Roof Rack install. Looks great on this color. The black and the red look awesome together. We're gonna roll this one out. Stay tuned for the next video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Thanks.